The Great Emu War, Australia's military versus emus. Spoiler: the emus won. In 1932, at the height of economic desperation and political pressure, Australia did something no nation expects to do. In peacetime, it declared war on birds. Not metaphorical birds, not code names, but thousands of 6-foot-tall emus roaming the farmlands of Western Australia. Armed with machine guns and military authority, the Australian government believed it could solve an agricultural problem with firepower. What followed became one of history's most unlikely defeats. Fresh from World War I, soldiers were deployed with surplus weapons and high expectations. The mission seemed simple: reduce emu populations, protect crops, and restore order. Instead, the operation unraveled almost immediately. The emus scattered, adapted, and outran both bullets and vehicles. Guns jammed, ammunition ran low, public ridicule exploded. In 2026, the Great Emu War is no longer just a funny story, it's a cautionary tale. It exposes how governments misdiagnose complex problems, apply force where understanding is needed, and underestimate nature's ability to adapt. This wasn't just a war against emus, it was a clash between rigid authority and resilient wildlife. And by every meaningful measure, the emus didn't just survive, they won. Let's watch. 1. Economic desperation turned wildlife into an enemy. The Great Emu. War cannot be understood without the economic pressure of the Great Depression. After World War I, Australian veterans were encouraged to settle farmland in Western Australia under government programs that promised stability and prosperity. Instead, they faced poor soil, falling wheat prices, and mounting debt. When tens of thousands of emus migrated through the region during breeding season, the birds destroyed crops, broke fencing, and consumed scarce water supplies. To struggling farmers, the emus became symbols of everything going wrong. Rather than address structural failures, poor land planning, weak infrastructure, and economic collapse, the government framed the problem as an invasion. Emus weren't wildlife anymore. They were framed as an adversary. That framing paved the way for a military response to what was fundamentally an environmental and economic issue. 2. Why the military was chosen over practical solutions. By 1932, Australia had surplus military equipment left over from World War I, including Lewis machine guns. Officials believed using soldiers would be faster, cheaper, and more decisive than long-term agricultural reform. Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery was placed in charge. The plan assumed emus would move in predictable herds and could be easily culled using sustained gunfire. This decision reflected a broader mindset of the era. Complex problems could be solved through force if enough authority and firepower were applied. No serious consultation with wildlife experts occurred. Emu behavior was barely studied. In modern terms, this was a classic case of policy overconfidence, using the tools you have rather than the solutions you need. 3. The emus outsmarted the strategy. Almost immediately, once the operations began, it quickly became clear that the emus were far more formidable than anyone anticipated. They refused to cooperate with the soldiers' expectations, scattering into small, fast-moving groups the moment gunfire erupted. The terrain compounded the military's difficulties. Trucks struggled through rough farmland, machine guns frequently jammed, and ammunition ran out far faster than planned. Meanwhile, emus sprinted at speeds up to 50 kilometers per hour, weaving effortlessly through scrubland and obstacles. Even when hit, the birds often survived or continued running. Their dense feathers, strong muscles, and high pain tolerance made them remarkably resilient. Many wounded emus escaped unharmed, frustrating the soldiers' attempts at control. Major Meredith later remarked that the emus behaved almost like trained guerrilla fighters, dispersing, regrouping, and refusing to be pinned down. Against all expectations, the bird's natural adaptability repeatedly outmatched human firepower, demonstrating that strategy and resilience can triumph over superior weaponry. 4. Public ridicule turned a failed operation into national embarrassment. Once the media reported on the Army's difficulties, public perception shifted almost immediately. Newspapers ridiculed the campaign, turning what was meant to be a serious military operation into national comedy. Headlines humorously credited emus with clever tactics, while highlighting the soldiers' repeated failures. Parliamentarians began questioning the logic and expense of sending trained soldiers to combat birds. Critics asked why taxpayer money was wasted on a military campaign against wildlife, and how the supposedly disciplined army could be outmaneuvered by emus. 5. Round 2 proved the problem wasn't execution, it was the idea. Later in 1932, under continued pressure from farmers, the Australian government approved a second attempt to curb the emu population. This time, expectations were modest, but officials still believed persistence and firepower could solve the problem. The results were the same or worse. Emus adapted faster than before, avoiding roads, dispersing unpredictably, and even learning to recognize areas of human activity as dangerous. Machine guns fired, but kill counts remained low compared to the enormous effort and resources expended. Trucks became ineffective, and ammunition was quickly depleted. Eventually, the military quietly admitted defeat. The campaign ended without victory, resolution, or meaningful justification, leaving the emus completely unchallenged. 6. The emus won by forcing smarter policy. After the military failed to control the emu population, the Australian government shifted to civilian solutions, bounty programs, stronger fencing, and improved land management practices. These practical measures proved far more effective than machine guns ever could, allow farmers to protect crops while coexisting with wildlife. Ironically, the very problem that had prompted a military campaign was resolved without soldiers. Emu numbers stabilized, crop destruction declined, and the immediate crisis faded. The birds had, in effect, won by outlasting human force and forcing a change in strategy. From a strategic perspective, the emus achieved all their objectives: survival, territorial retention, and the cessation of hostile action. 7. Why the Great Emu War still resonates in 2026. Today, the Great Emu War is more than a historical oddity. It serves as a powerful lesson in environmental management, government overreach, and the unintended consequences of poorly planned interventions. It is studied in military courses, public policy programs, and climate adaptation discussions, not for humor, but as a cautionary tale. The war demonstrates that relying on force or technology to solve ecological problems often fails. Nature is adaptive, resilient, and unpredictable, and human arrogance can quickly turn authority into embarrassment. Soldiers with machine guns couldn't control the emus, showing that even superior tools are useless without understanding context. The Great Emu War may seem like a humorous footnote in history, but its lessons remain surprisingly relevant today. Australia's military, armed with machine guns and authority, assumed it could dominate nature with sheer force. Instead, it faced an opponent that was faster, smarter, and far more adaptable than anyone expected. Emus scattered outmaneuvered soldiers and survived in numbers far beyond the military's control. What began as a straightforward plan to protect crops became an enduring symbol of the limits of human power. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Great Emu War, Australia's military versus emus. Spoiler, the emus won. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.